I'd like to call the meeting at 7:01 and do the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the attendance, we have to elect an alternate. Christine, I have a motion to,
I move that we elect Christina Crescenzi as a voting member today.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve our agenda for this evening.
Motion, seconds.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of minutes for Board of Finance meeting, November 20th, 2024.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the Board of Finance meeting from November 20th, 2024.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
FY 23-24 audit presentation.
All right, would you like me at the table?
Wherever you like to go, wherever you're comfortable.
Good evening and happy holidays.
Okay.
Mike Van Deventer, I'm a partner at Mahoney Sable, ultimately responsible for overseeing the audit work in issuing the reports on behalf of the firm. We do issue a number of reports. I'm going to go through my presentation, which really provides an overall summary of those reports. I certainly encourage you, once you do get the final reports, to go through the financial statements and ask questions of management and challenge them. But in terms of the presentation, I'm going to cover the scope of work, the audit reports that will be issued, provide some overall financial highlights. I'll make our required communications, and then I'll certainly answer any questions that the board members can have. In terms of the scope of work, again, we did an audit of the financial statements. We performed that audit in accordance with both the auditing standards issued by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, as well as the government auditing standards issued by the Government Accountability Office. In addition, based on the level of funding that was received by the town, we did perform both federal and state single audits. And we also performed agreed upon procedures on the end of school year reports that are required to be submitted by the school district to the Department of Education. In addition to those attest services, we do perform some non-audit services. So we do assist in the preparation of the financial statements, the schedule of federal awards, the schedule of state financial assistance, and the related notes. We also assist in converting the governmental fund financial statements to the government-wide financial statements. For non-audit services, for us to be able to perform those services and remain independent of the town, meaning we're not auditing our own work, management is required to oversee those services and ultimately accept responsibility for them. Again, Amy, as the director of finance and treasurer, has accepted responsibility for those services. We issue a number of reports. On the report on the financial statements, we are issuing unmodified clean opinions on the financial statements. So again, an unmodified opinion is expressed when we've concluded that the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America, and that is as established by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. I do like to point out, if you read our opinion paragraph per paragraph, our opinion does provide reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free from a material misstatement, whether due to error or fraud. Again, we do not provide absolute assurance. We do not test every transaction. The financial statements do include some estimates, and therefore we cannot provide absolute assurance. Again, reasonable assurance is still a very high level of assurance. We also issue a report on compliance and on internal control over financial reporting. In this report, we don't actually express an opinion on the town's compliance with laws and regulations or on the effectiveness of the town's internal controls. Essentially, during the course of performing the financial statement audit, if we become aware of what we consider a material non-compliance with laws and regulations that has a direct and material impact on your financial statements, or a material weakness or significant deficiency in your internal controls, we're required to include it in this report, and we're not reporting any such matters. In connection with the federal single audit, we issue a report on compliance at the federal award level. In this report, we do actually express an opinion on the town's compliance with your major federal programs. For fiscal year 2024, the total federal awards that were expended were about $3.1 million. The major programs were the Education Stabilization Funds and the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds. We did issue unmodified clean opinion on compliance over those programs, and we're not going to be reporting any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses over grant compliance. We issue a similar report in connection with the state single audit for fiscal year 2024. The total state financial assistance that was received by the town was about $10.9 million. Of that, about $3.5 million was considered non-exempt and subject to our compliance testing. The major programs were the Open Choice Funds and the Community Conservation and Development Funds. We did issue unmodified clean opinion on compliance over those programs. And again, we're not reporting any deficiencies over. Next section goes over your financial highlights. Again, the financial statements include a lot of information on your general fund, as well as all of your special revenue and capital project funds. This slide provides an overview of your general fund budgetary highlights. Your original budget did provide for the use of fund balance in the amount of $1.2 million. Your final budget did include additional appropriations of about $2.1 million. That resulted in an overall planned use of fund balance of about $3.3 million. Your actual net change in fund balance on a budgetary basis was a decrease of $386,000. So that resulted in an overall favorable budgetary variance of about $3 million. The revenues and transfers in were about $2.8 million more than budgeted, again, driven by favorable collections on property taxes, state aid, building permit fees, and interest earned on your short-term investments. And again, the expenditures were about $120,000 less than budgeted. And that did include budgetary transfers of unexpended appropriations to your capital non-recurring fund. Next slide goes over your governmental fund financial highlights. So this includes your general fund on a GAAP basis, as again, all of your special revenue and capital project funds. The total ending fund balances that were reported as of year end totaled about $26.4 million. That was an increase of about $1.5 million from the prior year. Of the $26.4 million, $12.7 million was in your general fund. That was a decrease of about $645,000 from the prior year. Of the $12.7 million, about $10.8 was considered unassigned, and that represents about 23.1% or 2.8 months of your fiscal year 2025 general fund budgetary expenditure appropriations. So again, that's above your policy, I believe, in terms of the overall unassigned fund balance. In terms of all of your other funds, they had an ending fund balance of about $13.7 million. That was an increase of about $2.2 million from the prior year. And there was one fund that was reporting a deficit in the financial statements this year. It's the Park and Recreation Fund, reported a fund balance deficit of about $5,000. Again, no other fund balance deficits existed. And again, that deficit will just need to get funded in fiscal 2025. Next slide goes over your government-wide financial highlights. And again, the government-wide takes your governmental fund financial statements and converts them to a full accrual basis of accounting. So it includes all of your capital assets and your long-term liabilities. The focus on the government-wide financial statements is on your overall net position and your long-term liabilities. The town is reporting an unrestricted net position of about $15.2 million. So that's really driven by the reserves that you have in your general fund and your capital funds, your overall low levels of a long-term debt, and then your pension and other post-employment benefit plans are relatively well-funded. Your net pension liability totaled about $4.4 million. That's about 90% funded using a discount rate of about 6.25%. And then your net OPEB liability is about $1.3 million. That's about 61% funded, again, utilizing that same discount rate of about 6. Last slide just goes over our required communications. The first item here talks about our responsibility under our auditing standards. Although we assist with the preparation of the financial statements, again, they are the responsibility of town management. It's our responsibility to perform our audit procedures and express opinions on those financial statements. In terms of the plan, scope, and timing of the audit, again, no changes in the overall timing or scope of work that was originally agreed upon. In terms of significant audit findings, there were no new accounting standards that were implemented that had a significant impact on the town's financial statements. As I mentioned before, the financial statements do include some significant estimates. Those consist of estimated useful lives that are assigned to your capital assets, as well as discount rates that are utilized to determine your net pension and OPEB liabilities. We do review those estimates. We did deem them to be reasonable and consistent with what other municipalities are using. Happy to report we had no significant difficulties encountered in performing the audit. We had no uncorrected misstatements. We had no disagreements with management. We will be obtaining a management representation letter. There are going to be no unusual representations that we will be requesting. Again, I just give the board members the example. If we were unable to substantiate a transaction and we were relying on the representations of management, that's something that we would disclose to you. Again, we're not aware of any management consultation with any other independent. We are issuing a separate management recommendation letter. Again, from an audit perspective, there's really 3 levels of deficiencies that we can report. There's material weaknesses and significant deficiencies. Those would be reported in the report on compliance and internal control over financial reporting. Those also require a corrective action plan to be completed and submitted to the Office of Policy Management. And then we have other recommendations that we can either provide verbally or in a written letter. Again, this year we're issuing a written letter regarding 3 items. The first one's a carry forward from the prior year regarding the school district maintaining the student activity funds in Munis. Again, the majority of the funds have already been converted to Munis. I think there was just one school that had not been implemented for Munis. So again, the recommendation is just to continue that implementation. We had a recommendation over the bank reconciliations. Again, there was an adjustment that we identified. It really related to the beginning of the year. So it didn't really have an impact on the current year, but it did impact the bank reconciliations for the year. Also, I think we noted that the bank reconciliations weren't necessarily complete and accurate in a kind of a timely manner. The majority of the activity was reconciled, but again, we're recommending that ultimately the bank reconciliations get done within a specified time frame and that any discrepancies get addressed in a timely manner. And then the last item, there was just some adjustments that were recorded to fund balance accounts. Again, we had talked to the Board of Education business manager. No adjustment should be recorded to fund balance unless it relates to a prior period adjustment. Again, those adjustments were made on the basis of that they were using fund balance to fund those expenditures, and they just need to run through the current period. So again, these are things that I think will be addressed in fiscal year 25, but they are part of a separate letter. And with that, I will open it up to any questions.
You said that our net pension liability of 90% funded is similar to other audits we've done. Are there any that are higher than ours, significantly higher? Or is that?
No, I mean, typically you're not going to see them over 100% funded because the actuaries will take that into consideration when they're developing your annual required contributions. Typically we like to see the funding percentage to be over 80%.
Right.
There are a lot of municipalities that are probably between 60 and 80%. So again, you guys have a pretty well-funded pension.
Okay, that's good to know. Jason?
To follow up on that, Mike may not be aware, but the city of Bristol hasn't made an actuarially defined contribution in many years. Because they're at something like 124% of their liabilities, which is Herculean and unheard of. But that is an outlier to the norm. The norm is, as he stated, somewhere in the 60 to 80, 85 range. We're doing pretty well. all things considered, that, about 15 years ago, we, put in a smoothing part, to amortize the actual liability over 20 years, and that has made a big difference. The thing, to piggyback up your comment, but a question is, given how young our OPEB fund is, I'm not concerned at a 60% number. I think that's pretty good considering how young that program is.
Yeah, no,
I agree with that.
I agree. Yeah. In fact, most municipalities that have OPEB plans are either not fully funding them, and they're probably anywhere between 20 and 40% funded at this point. So again, 60% is a well-funded plan. And again, the actuaries will take that all into consideration. As long as you continue to make the annual required contributions, then again, you should have sufficient funds to pay the benefits.
And Mike, you're comfortable at a 6.25
Yes, that's probably on the lower side. Yeah,
lower side, good?
lower side percentage wise. Yeah, we see it anywhere between 6 and probably 7%. And just changing those discount rates, even, a quarter of a percentage has a significant impact on the calculation.
We had 3 years in a row that we lowered it.
Yeah, yeah. No, I definitely think that's appropriate. I think the state is still using probably like a 6.9 or a 7% discount rate. And again, that has a significant impact on the actual liability and your annual required contribution. The lower the discount rate, the higher those numbers are going to be. But if the market keeps going the way it's going.
It was a bad day.
I didn't see. Yeah.
Yesterday was.
I've been working all day. Okay.
I think it was, what, 4 days in a row, 5 days in a row now?
Yeah, it's been December. I'm waiting for this Santa rally, which I guess is a thing, but it's not showing up.
Any other questions from the board?
I had one other. The 23.1% of our undesignated fund balance. That seems to be systemic at this point. If, let's say hypothetically, we were to take on a significant amount of new debt, but that would go away, right?
If you took on, yes, are you talking about from a budgetary perspective? Yeah, 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 because some of that surplus is related to the debt service.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I guess we're good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Do you have an extra one?
I do. Yep.
I want to leave several.
Here's the next one too.
Okay, this is the public participation portion. Is there any public? Maureen?
That's one of these.
Happy holidays.
Yeah. Thank you for participating.
Communications, Amy? Any? Okay, monthly reports.
I don't really have anything for you. Everything's going along. You don't know of anything. You'll see I did a couple transfers, but that's just reallocating money within the registrar's budget.
Yep.
That's it. Unless anybody has any things specific they want to know about.
Board of Ed, financial?
Well, that's the same. We've had some good meetings with our subcommittee.
Okay. I guess we're down to transfers. We have a motion for transfer number 18.
I'll make a motion for transfer number 18, to register of voters in the amount of $4,500 for election, to be taken from election workers and put into the election part-time salary to transfer funds to cover cost of additional office staffing assistance during registrar.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And transfer number 19.
I'll make a motion to transfer for number 19, registrar of voters in the amount of $4,500 from the election worker line to elections to transfer election worker pay from professional services to wages as required by the IRS.
I'll second.
Okay, yeah. Yep, oof. There we have
All in
a motion.
favor?
Hmm?
We already have a motion. We have.
We have, it. Yep, can we have all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And reconciliations.
The town is through November for bank statements and interfunds are in balance.
Similar, we're through November, I did confirm the 10th. As well.
Board of Selectmen updates and reverse.
Just want to remind everybody that tomorrow night is the annual town meeting. And as part of that, the town's adopting our 25 capital budget. Not our budget, but our capital plan. That is a particularly important vote because that will allow us to make sure that we have project lines established to use lots of dollars or other funds that become available against projects that are approved by our legislative body. So just reminding you that item is on there. That's an important thing, asking for folks to attend and please vote in favor.
Okay.
And then very much looking forward to budget season. And I'm not speaking hyperbolic. I really enjoy budget season.
There's something wrong with you.
I know, but it's fun. Amy and I spend a lot of time together and it's like a puzzle, you know, it's like something coming into focus. It really is. I very much enjoy it.
You enjoy it, Amy?
Board of Finance updates. Bruce?
Yesterday, we had our concerts at Broadbrook. They were very well attended. The kids did a great job. This week, both boys and girls high school basketball opened up. Girls did win on Monday. Boys did lose, but both are playing a successful season. And I believe we have the late parade this Saturday. Our band will be playing. So a lot of good things leading into the parade.
Excellent. Any new business?
Nope.
Amy?
Nope,
No? Okay. Unfinished business?
nope.
Member comments?
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas all. It's coming up quickly.
Yep.
And our next meeting is going to be January 15th, a regular monthly meeting.
I look forward to it.
Boy, we're all just so tonight.
And can I have a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn our meeting tonight.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Don't you guys want to leave?